All things considered, the Jessie series got a lot of crossovers during its 4-season run. Off the top of my head, I can name a few. The Good Luck Charlie Christmas crossover, the Austin Alley New Year crossover, and even an Ultimate Spider-Man Halloween crossover. To which I say, why? Why does this exist? How? Under what circumstances? To what extent? What was I saying? Alright, I'm sure I'm missing several smaller crossovers, but you get the idea. They have a lot, and if you consider Bunked part of Jessie's overall series, I'm sure we have way more. Now, let's get into the actual crossover. We open with the Ross kids saying they need to find ways to cheer up Jessie from another disappointing audition. A constant gag on this show of Jessie being an absolute failed actress for one reason or another. However, things are different this time. Jessie actually got the part, and she needs to take a working holiday in Hawaii. So she and the Ross kids are going to fly over to Hawaii and live in the villa for the Christmas holiday. However, in the villa, we see a familiar face. At least we would see a familiar face if you've actually seen Jessie a lot. This is Maya Mitchell, who is playing Shaylee Michaels. You may be wondering why she's here. For the plot reasons, it's because Bertram tried to make extra money by renting out the Ross's villa to her. For out-of-universe reasons, this is my hunch. I am not 100% sure. I'm not even 50% sure. This is just a hunch. I feel like they did this because, on paper, they intended this to be a full crossover with Liv and Maddie, much like what they did with Good Luck Charlie, where they had a full crossover there. At least with PJ and Teddy meeting the characters and just having the Duncan family on the side. For this one, I feel like the Rooney family was going to share the villa with the Jessie cast. However, because things like scheduling or the nature of Liv and Maddie's filming style, Dove Cameron does play both Liv and Maddie, and she also has to have a stand-in for when she's in the scene with herself. These plans ended up getting scrapped and retooled into this special. But that's just the speculation I'm making solely based off how this special plays out, because it feels like this is a bucket of scrapped concepts strung together, and I can't understand why. Or maybe they just intended Parker and Joey to always be here as guest stars and just advertise them, because after all, this wasn't advertised as a crossover. It all depends on how and when in development this all shifted, if at all. But we do get the Rooney family mentioned. They're mentioned as being in the villa next door. So, we get their mentioning, but not them. Is this a nod to their original plans, or am I looking too much into it? You make the call. Of course, Joey immediately hits it off with Emma, and Zuri and Parker decide to go prank people before flat out scamming people by selling various lava rocks and the island wind itself, which is just ketchup bottles emptied. Not even fully emptied, just partially emptied ketchup bottles. Ravi is being a dork and is walking around Hawaii acting like he's an expert because that's all Ravi can do. Play smart character, living encyclopedia. Not sure how much of this is actual Hawaiian lore and how much of it is just the commercialized tourist version of it, or somewhere in between. Whatever. Jessie, meanwhile, has her big acting debut as a guest star. Then the director sees Shaylee Michaels and immediately catches on and says, I could use her as a big-name guest star. Jessie is okay with letting Shaylee join, but the effects become obvious. Shaylee slowly gains more lines that originally belonged to Jessie, mind you, and then Jessie is relegated to playing a corpse, and then is ultimately booted off. Meanwhile, Luke tries to ruin any attempt Joey makes to court Emma. In his words, epic fail. Let's see how Jessie is dealing with her acting career. With violence. And sulking. Usually those two go the other way around. You sulk first and then get violent. So with Parker and Joey, selling bits of the island to tourists means the island will retaliate. And of course, the island does retaliate using lava, so the only way to appease the island is to sacrifice what they were doing, such as making the lava rocks and selling them, and, one pig. But don't worry, they don't actually throw the pig into the volcano. So when Jessie finds out, she immediately wants to go rescue the Ross kids, plus Parker and Joey. We get an unfunny joke about Jessie offing herself by leaping into a volcano later on. Apparently, they get a coincidental helicopter from a scene on Aloha Crime because they wrote a helicopter scene just for Shaylee. Because guest star. Someone in budgeting is going to be very mad about that. So they rescue Bertram, Parker and Joey, and the Ross family. Emma and Joey part. Jessie and Shaylee make up. One dance scene later, they play in the ash released by the volcano as if it were snow. Ew. The end. As a Jessie crossover, I'm honestly more invested when it is not a Jessie crossover, honestly. The strongest parts about this whole special is the parts where Jessie is with her acting career in front of her, and how she ends up losing this guest star position, and essentially is wasting away in Hawaii of all places. And the fact that Shaylee Michaels is already a previously established character, that makes the Jessie scenes work better. Although, the sad part is, I really wish this wasn't a crossover. Like I said, the weakest parts are the crossover parts. Mainly because, if my theory holds, these were just repurposed from the original concept. I don't know what Jessie would have been doing with Liv Rooney in the original concepts, if they even exist at all. But I do feel like the Parker Joey parts were written in like one draft and were just moved over here with some minor adjustments at best. Mainly because Parker and Joey feel off. I don't remember much of Liv and Maddie. A lot of the 2010s around the time Liv and Maddie was airing ended up blurring together. Joey, I think, is fine, but Parker feels dumber than usual. Now, they're short-sighted, and then there is dumb as a sack of bricks, like not knowing what the frickin' volcanic ash is. Maybe it's how he's treated in Cali style, but I feel like he's a lot more moronic in this one. He felt more like a male Zuri than he did a Parker Rooney. Mischief and intellect go hand in hand, but honestly, the way they went with it, he felt a lot more like a male Zuri. And that's probably the part I take the biggest issue with. He just doesn't feel like Parker. Maybe it's because I haven't seen Liv and Maddie in a while, so my memory might be rusty. Maybe he was like that in earlier seasons, but he developed in a different direction. But I guess these are all my thoughts for this crossover. Let me know what you think. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.